Welcome to another edition of Altitude Advantage. You're probably looking at this on YouTube wondering what this is on my head, but I had to wear the throwback helmet to start the show because I am not only your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, sitting across the table from our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, and our digital media contributor, Susanna Ware, who are both smiling at me. I'm not going to say laughing. But guys, it's Dub Day. All right, I'll take it off. Look, it's Dub Day.
Well, hold it up for the camera. It's beautiful.
I'll hold it up for the camera. I took a visit to the team store.
No, you?
I know, right? It's crazy to think that I would go there or they would let me back in. But it is Dub Day, a very special edition.
Let you back in. They're probably like, oh my gosh.
She's back.
She's back. Let's get the carts ready.
Yes. Well, this is a very special edition of Altitude Advantage because it is Dub Day, a playoff edition of Dub Day, snapping a 8-season drought for the Denver Broncos after a dominating win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Are you guys hyped?
Fired up.
Fired up, Suze?
Very hyped.
Wow, okay.
We got a chuckle. That's
I'm
new.
very hyped.
Very hyped. Very hyped. But obviously yesterday's game against the Kansas City Chiefs was one definitely that was really special for all of Broncos country, a shutout against a division rival. And during our instant analysis last night, when we had talked about it, you had mentioned, you said it doesn't matter if they're playing their backups, a shutout is a shutout. And I think the performance that this team had is going to, serve them well going into the first round of the wild card. But 24 hours later, has it sunk in for you that you are now covering your first playoffs?
It has. This
also,
is
you're welcome from me and Suze.
Yeah, that's right. All we had to do was bring you guys in, and visit the team store. For fans who are wondering, how much does that set you back, just in case they want it? Okay, maybe go find out for yourself.
It set me back nothing because it brought me so much joy.
Oh, okay.
And it's our lucky helmet, So I brought it to share the joy. It doesn't have a name yet.
Okay.
It's too beautiful, but
Suze, I feel like you should also try it on.
That's okay.
Oh, it's happening. It's happening,
I'm good.
Suze.
Nah, that's
You should lift it up really quick.
No,
I
have a small head. It won't fit. Can't.
That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense. It would fit better.
It'll cover my eyes. I can't.
Okay. All right. Maybe
You want
next
to
time.
talk.
Yeah,
No, my head is
go.
big because of my huge brain, so that's tough.
And mine is just right.
Exactly. It was a fun afternoon at Empower Field at Mile High. I think there was a lot of anxiety from us, at least. We don't. Obviously, the team I think felt ready to go, but a lot of external anxiety from the fan base, from us, in terms of, are they going to get this done? And certainly when you had to win one game with 3 games to play, that felt like there was a lot of wiggle room, and then quickly it became you win one game with 1 game to play, and the Bengals winning took everything. It made it very simple. If you didn't win, you're going to be sitting at home. And so there was some nervous energy that went with that. And I think the exciting thing and the fun part about yesterday, a win would have been exciting regardless. But the fact that they went out and just dominated and put this away extremely early. They scored touchdowns on their first 3 drives. And I thought the big moment was you score a touchdown, you get a 3 and out. And then on the second drive, you face this 4th and 1, I think at your own 39, own 40-yard line. You go for it, get it. That was kind of sneakily a very gutsy call to keep possession. You end up scoring again on that drive. I think the very next play was that deep pass to Cortland Sutton where he went over 1,000 yards. But that put it out of reach. When you go up 14-0, it was clear that the Broncos were rolling. Suze texted me when the Broncos were up 21-0 and asked, are you having fun over there? And I was like, well, let's just take it easy. There's still a lot of game to go. But when the Chiefs missed that field goal and the Broncos go into halftime up 24-0, it did allow the second half to be almost like this coronation, this cathartic moment. Certainly you saw the fans around the field at the end of the game as Bo Nix is running a lap around the stadium. He said further than he thought it was and needs to do a little bit more cardio. As we wrote on DenverBroncos.com, that was about the only thing that he didn't do perfectly on Sunday. He was dealing. I think that's the 2 big takeaways just in terms of what you see is one, your young quarterback, stellar, terrific, incredible. I mean, you could use about every adjective you could. He's got the 2nd most passing touchdowns by a rookie in NFL history. He started with 18 consecutive completions, which is the most by a rookie in NFL history, the most by any Bronco ever. He's got the 3rd most total touchdowns of any rookie. He finished 6th in the NFL. 6th. I mean, you're talking about behind guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, but like other than that, not a lot of guys had more touchdown passes, Baker Mayfield, than Bo Nix. And so, man, it looks like you found your guy. And how exciting is that to not only know that for this week, but to know it going forward into the future? Everybody, Pat Surtain, Cortland Sutton, said it changes what we think we can do. Yeah. And they know this kid is special, and I cannot wait to watch him play a playoff game. And then the other thing, the defense just bounced back, and it had been a tough stretch, but for them to go out there, doesn't matter who you're against, to shut them out, to get up to 63 total sacks on the year, to have Jonathan Cooper get into double digits, man, it was cathartic. It was a celebratory atmosphere, and then these guys, you could just tell how much it meant to them.
Yeah, Malcolm Roach after the game said, man, we've been trying to make a statement for 3 straight games, and now we're finally able to do that. Suze, when you were in the locker room, just describe what it was and your initial thoughts, just being around the guys and seeing what this moment meant to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing most of them mentioned was just like, I'm so grateful that we're in this position and like we got it done, and they came out and did exactly what they needed to do. But then also just hearing them talk about like sharing it with this group of guys, a lot of them pointed to like, this is the team that I want to be here with. And even for guys like Court and Bulls who haven't been to the playoffs, like they especially emphasized like, this is a special group of guys. And so I had to wait a long time for this, but I'm glad to be doing it with this group. So it was just an awesome environment. And then, you know, obviously facing 3 consecutive games, like you said, win-in situation, to do it in front of the home crowd, I think was special for them as well. So
definitely Broncos country deserved that moment. And you can see fans staying after the game to really soak that in, make it official that the Denver Broncos were in the playoffs. And to see that flash across Thunder Vision, like we're in, it definitely set a tone with fans just leaving, the players like, wow, this is real. We really did it. And as Suze mentioned, a lot of the guys were just really happy for the vets that have been on this team and really kind of pushed through. Garrett Bowles, who just signed an extension recently, Cortland Sutton, who's been here a long time, a real big pillar of this team. When I was talking to Marvin Mims after the game, I asked him, how does it feel? And he's just like, I'm just thinking of Court. Like everyone just had Court in the front of their mind, which I think says a lot about the brotherhood and the fact that they do truly play for each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this is about, right? It is making it in with this group of guys, remembering, Sean Payton mentioned it Friday, let's remember where this team photo is.
Yeah.
And each group is not the same each year. I think Mike McGlinchey said it again on Monday that now you've got to, you live this season a week at a time in the postseason, and, you try to keep this going as long as possible. But certainly for guys like Cortland and Garrett who have been through the tough times, and it hasn't just been tough. It's been difficult. It's been ugly at times, and they've found a way to weather through it and keep that faith and
stay positive for whatever young guys are coming in, to not let like bitterness kind of trickle down. Like they always found the silver lining in things.
Yeah, and listen, the Broncos, whether it was for whatever reason it was, they moved on from a lot of different vets, and so I think that even makes it more special for a guy like Garrett, a guy like Court, is that you were chosen to stay here and be part of the solution and be part of moving forward. And certainly Sean Payton talks a lot about the procurement of players and building your roster. It's no accident that Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles are still here. And so the fact that they get to see that was really awesome. And it was a special moment. And listen, I as much as anybody want to go into Buffalo and get a win. And I think obviously they're turning the page quickly to that game. But I do think it is like, I wondered what it was going to be like when you finally got that win. And I wonder if it would have been different if you'd gotten it against LA 3 weeks ago. But I think the fact that like it wasn't easy to get to this, and it took a couple of weeks, and you were so close and couldn't quite get there, and then you finally make it. There was just like this kind of historic sense of what it meant to get back to the postseason after an 8-year drought. And the fact that you do get a chance to now make this season even more special. But yeah, part of it too was like these guys talked about, everyone said we're going to win 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, and here we are. Bo Nix said it. I loved this quote from him. You don't let anybody else decide like what you're able to do. And I thought that was really
profound for a rookie.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like he went out and said we doubled the number of wins we were supposed to have. We earned a playoff berth. There weren't many people out there that thought the Broncos were going to do this. And so whatever happens the rest of the way, and listen, they don't want it to end now. Their goal wasn't just to make the postseason. But I think kind of big picture, you can say that this season was a success, just the fact that you made it to this point. Yeah. And obviously now you get in the dance, anything can happen. But what an accomplishment to get to this point.
Yeah, Mike McGlinchey mentioned that. Like, you just have to get in. And once you're in, like you said, anything can happen. he's been on teams with high seeds that haven't gone very far. He's been on teams with lows that haven't gotten far. So for him to kind of have a different perspective, for him to kind of trickle down to the guys, I think is really important. And the defense yesterday, 5 sacks, 9 QB hits, 0 points allowed in that game. I think it was good for them to have that performance. Sue's Nick Bonito got a couple sacks. What did you kind of see just from him and Cooper, like those front defensive guys that really just didn't let up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good kind of, I don't want to say bounce back because it's not like they've been playing poorly. Like, we saw them put up a pretty good performance against the Bengals to hang in that game. But still, I think this was a dominant performance. And so to have that, obviously, like we mentioned, they were playing against the backups and whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, they came out and dominated, and to have that kind of performance, to kind of build on. Now, heading into the postseason, I think it was important for them to, just show themselves like we're still the same defense we've been throughout the season. We may have dropped 2 games before this, but that's not going to dictate anything that happens now. So,
and I think another big thing is now you're going into the postseason and there's more eyes on you, right? So now Cortland Sutton, a lot more people are going to be able to see what he does. Malcolm Roach, again, after the game, gave him high praise and said he's one of the best wide receivers I've ever been around. And he's like, I can't wait for the world to see him, or just like more people to see what he's capable of and the kind of player that he is. And going into, we're not going to touch too deep into the matchup, but just a lot of these guys are playing in their first playoff game. And I know you talked to, or you heard from some of the guys that just are going to lean on that playoff experience to kind of help the young ones out. Yeah, even the vets haven't been there.
Yeah, you hear a lot that like the first playoff game that everybody talks about it and you don't really get it till you see it, but like the speed is increased, the physicality is increased. Sometimes like penalties go uncalled and you just got to go out there and earn it and take it. Yeah. And that's what Zach Allen was saying on Monday, that like you try to prepare guys, but they've really got to see it to understand, and you've got to take it up to that next level. Now he said, hey, playing against the Chargers, playing against the Bengals, that helps you kind of get into that playoff type mode. But it's still going to be an adjustment. They're going to have to be ready to go. It's obviously a really good football team in Buffalo that they're going to face. Josh Allen is potentially the MVP of the league, right? Like this is not going to be an easy game. Yeah. I do think though that like the Broncos, they know they can beat this team. This is not a team that is all that much different from the team that they beat last year on Monday Night Football in Buffalo. It was a wild game, a crazy game. It took several takeaways from the Broncos, and it might take the same thing this year because Josh Allen last year, he made his plays. It required a last-second flag. Like that's last year felt like a postseason type game, the same way that the game against the Bengals this year, the game in Kansas City felt that way. Like it's going to be this back and forth type game. And we'll talk a lot more about it later in the week. But I think what stands out to me is that the attention has already turned toward Buffalo, and guys like the leaders on this team, like Bo, like Zach Allen, like Mike McGlinchey, like Sutton, like Garrett Bowles. Like Garrett Bowles was like, "Hey, we're in now. Let's go." Like now it's time to get going.
Tomorrow.
It's time to get going here. Yeah. And so I think that ability to quickly turn the page and say like, "Hey, we're not just satisfied with this." That's going to serve them well when they go to Buffalo. And I just think like, listen, it's strength on strength. Like the Broncos defense gets pressure on quarterbacks. The Bills have allowed the fewest sacks this year. But one thing that stands out to me is the way Bo has played the last few weeks, the way that he has, whether it's in Cincinnati leading that game-tying drive, whether it was in Kansas City leading what should have been a game-winning drive, whether it's coming out yesterday and just being dominant from the get-go. Like he's shown he has what it takes in these big moments. And I expect, obviously it's his first playoff start. We'll see how it goes. But he's going to be the first rookie quarterback in franchise history to start a playoff game. He could be the first rookie quarterback, obviously, to win a playoff game if he's able to do that. But I just think he doesn't shrink from these moments. And so I cannot wait to see what he does. And again, I think, like you said, bigger audience, right? Like people are starting to, and even if Jaden Daniels ends up winning Rookie of the Year, I think people are starting to say, like, this Bo Nix guy is good. And, man, if he goes out there and plays the way he has against the Bills, I think a lot of people are going to kind of open their eyes to what Bo Nix can do.
Yeah, people were on Twitter were saying we're bowing to the playoffs. We believe. I mean, the nicknames are just running amok.
It's good for puns, his name is. It's good. I like it.
Yeah, and I think as you look at this matchup, there's a familiar face over there with Von Miller. I don't know if you saw, he posted on Instagram some photos from Super Bowl 50, and he captioned it with full circle. And it's interesting because Nick Bonito, one of his favorite players growing up, he said was Von Miller and the way that he looked up to him. And for him to kind of have this moment, being a Pro Bowler, first time in his career, going to the playoffs, first time in his career, guys like him, Riley Moss. Riley after the game kind of joked around, and he was just like, yeah, I looked over at Pat and I said, it only took me 2 years to get to the postseason. And, Nick had mentioned the same. He was joking around like that way too. But I think you see that these younger guys, there is a respect level that goes farther than what's on the field. And I think, like we mentioned earlier with Sutton and Garrett Bowles, they not only they're grateful to get there, but like you said, like, they want to win a game for them and they want to continue. Marvin Mims had mentioned after the game, he's like, now it's just a matter of extending the season. Just extend the season one more week. I think that ties back to the mentality that they've really focused on all season of taking it 1 week at a time.
Yeah, and why not, right? Like, nobody thought the Broncos were going to make the playoffs. Nobody thought that Bo Nix was going to do this. Everyone after the draft was like, oh, you reached for Bo Nix. He's a sixth quarterback off the board. Like, they ranked the Broncos skill positions 32nd in the league, and all they did was they went out and won 10 games and made the playoffs, right? And so
no big deal,
Well, and so, like, if that's the expectation, you go and do that. Well, now you're at the same thing, right? Where nationally, people are looking at the Broncos as like, oh, they're the cute little 7 seed that made it in and broke the playoff drought. But, like, they got to go to Buffalo. And if they go to Buffalo, then they got to go to Kansas City. Like, nationally, you're not going to see a lot of people have faith in the Broncos. But all they've done all year long is prove people wrong. Yeah. And so why not keep doing it? And that can be a powerful thing when in the locker room, people believe in themselves and believe what they can do as a team, especially when everybody outside does not think that. So, I mean, I'm not like being a fortune teller here to say that there's not going to be a lot of people to pick the Broncos this weekend, but who cares? You've proven people wrong all year long. Go do it again this weekend in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I think, just tying on that, like, a lot of the guys, they say, like, Sean Payton has done a really good job of not letting them get ahead of themselves and blocking out that noise because – he's been in the league for a long time. He's seen, been in countless scenarios with his teams. And I think he's been able to really manage everyone, just kind of say, look, like, even when they were, when Bo's winning Rookie of the Week 3 weeks in a row, and he's just like, hey, let's not get too ahead of ourselves because let's stick to what has got us here. And I think that's a mentality that's going to play well in the playoffs. And I think, like you said, just Bo not shrinking from these moments is going to serve this team very well on the road. And all the growing pains that we've talked about on this podcast over and over again, from the losses to the close losses, the close wins and things like that, it's kind of nice to look back and be like, wow, they've been in situations like this before. And we heard some of the guys talking earlier, like, we've been in tough games. Like, it's not like we had an easy schedule. I mean, we started the season alone against some of the top defenses in the league. So in the moment, you don't know how it's all going to play out. But now you're looking back and you're like, wow, they went through a lot of adversity and they went through a lot of, those lessons, those rookie lessons. But I think that's going to play well. And I think with Bo Nix, you're almost looking like, when, like, is there a rookie wall with this kid? Like, that's kind of what a lot of the conversations around has gone to. And I think the way that Sean Payton is able to develop these young guys around him as well, it's crazy to think that a lot of the offense are first-year players.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys making an impact. And now they, no matter what happens, like, and obviously you want to go win, right? But, like, this is valuable, and we talked about this last week, getting to the postseason and experiencing, hey, what is it like to go to especially playing on the road, what is it like to go to Buffalo and play Josh Allen in a postseason game against a team that if they don't win the Super Bowl, their season, they'll view it as a failure. And a lot of teams, if you don't get to the Super Bowl and win it, you view it as a failure, right? The Bills are one of those teams. And so if the Broncos can go there and kind of see what is this all about, steal a win, like that could be a very big moment for Bo and this young core in terms of the long-term development. But it's not just about the long-term, it's about this week. We'll get into it a lot more later this week when we preview this matchup. But, I think Broncos country, it's okay to take a second and soak all this in, Try to, put your head in the metaphorical helmet and
or in a real helmet.
Or in a real helmet, that's true.
I'm sure there's a lot of real helmets floating around out there in Broncos country. I've seen the caves where some of these fans are watching the games. And again, like, they just deserve it. I think another thing that players talked about, aside from just playing for each other and the veterans on the team, was they're like, this franchise and this fan base deserves to get back to the postseason, and they deserve to get back to the playoffs and make a run. And we can be that team to be special enough to do that. And I think, this season alone, we talked about it a little bit, Susan, on last podcast, where they just ended a lot of conversations this season. You know, whether it's something as simple as like beating the Raiders and snapping that streak, or, you know, going on the road and winning in Vegas for the first time, you know, snapping this postseason drought. I think that's how you start to build a winning culture. And I think you look back at what this franchise has done, what Sean Payton has done, Vance Joseph has done with his defense. I think is really impressive. And I remember week 4, we were doing early comparisons of what this defense was to the 2015 team, and everybody was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And now it's like, well, now they set a franchise record in sacks that's going to stand probably for a long time unless they break it again next year.
Yeah, but now this is where, like, you talk about the 15 defense. You want to really prove it. Now you go do it in the postseason, right? Like, if you can hold Josh Allen in check, I mean, that Super Bowl 50 defense was played out of its mind, obviously.
Elite.
But, yeah, if they can go out there now and put together one of their better performances, then we'll really have something to talk about. But yeah, I can't wait for this weekend, and we'll have a lot more as we get closer.
Are you excited for your first playoff game?
Of course. Of course.
When I asked Marvin Mims after the game, he was excited for his playoff game. He kind of stared at me. He said, "It's weird to hear you say that to me." He's like, it really hasn't soaked in, like, for him in that moment. And he's like, it's probably going to soak in later tonight when I'm scrolling on my phone, or maybe tomorrow morning when I see, you know, all the amazing posts that are out there, especially from our social team. Shout out to them. But just,
He said all that?
well, I'm shouting out our
got
social
it.
team. I'm
I just
saying,
didn't know if the
like,
quotation
he
ended.
said that it ended when he said, when I see all of the posts, and then I said that
Brackets.
came out. Yeah, brackets. From our social
Brackets
team.
are-
Because of course he's talking about our social team.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, I'm saying that since, like,
And me,
it-
probably.
yeah, probably you. I mean, I'm sure.
Probably mainly me. Just kidding.
I was gonna say, did it soak in for you last night or this morning?
Like the sense of, like, we've made it has sunk in. I think that I don't quite know yet what it's going to feel like on Sunday during the game.
That's a different feeling.
Or, like, you know, I've never covered a game or, like, been around a team where you're in this win or go home mentality. And so, like, man, some of these games, like the Cincy game where you can get in, or I've covered some games over the last almost a decade where it's like, if you lose this game, you're eliminated, but, like, there's not the counter side of, like, the joy that comes with it. And probably last year in Buffalo is one of the closest things to that, because if the Broncos lose that game, you drop to 3-6, you're probably out of postseason contention, and then they hold a huge upset. They go on the road, they win, and they get back to 4-5 and end up obviously getting all the way to 6-5 before things slipped a little bit late in the year. But, like, that was kind of the back and forth of, like, the extreme joy versus the pain you feel if you lose. But I don't know that I am, like, ready for or kind of know what that's going to be like from a postseason standpoint of, like, your season can just end like that, or it can keep going for a week. And obviously each week that you progress, the stakes just get bigger and bigger, and you
the press boxes get more crowded and crowded.
And the anxiety goes higher and higher.
Yeah.
And you keep putting the helmet on.
Yeah.
I looked over, I think it was after the Sutton catch, the deep, like, 47-yarder that put him over 1,000 yards. And I looked over, and Sousa's just, like, smiling out at the field.
We're happy for Core.
I know.
Yeah, I think for me, it definitely sunk in once I got home and I was listening to just the interviews after. And I was like, wow, like, this group that people counted out really did it. And I think for me, you know, being in the unique situation that, yes, I'm the team reporter, but I also grew up a Broncos fan. Like, I was here, you know, on that Monday night game against the Bengals when they clinched to go to the postseason and then went on to win the Super Bowl. And I remember being there, and you have this, like, is it going to be over, or are we going to keep going? And I think seeing this team win the way that they did, and just going into the postseason feeling confident but not overly confident. They're confident in what they can do, but they also respect their opponent. And I think just being there and being able to say, wow, I was there for that, you know, that started that playoff run. I'm here for this playoff run was really special. So
Hopefully it ends the exact same way. That'd be nice.
yeah, that would be nice.
Maybe they'll just win every year you're here. That would be kind of cool.
I'm saying, like, is it a coincidence? Me and Sue's here. I'm saying,
one of the cool things about any postseason berth or any postseason run is that, like, you've got, and especially in football where the locker room changes so much year to year, is, like, you have these people at all different points in their journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, Cortland and Garrett have been here for 7 and 8 years respectively. Bo, this is his very first year. He doesn't know any different. You've got guys like Pat Surtain who were used to winning all the time in college, and then you came in and struggled. You've got guys that never won in college and now get a chance to do it. You've got equipment guys and trainers and support staff that have been here for decades, and then you've got people who have, like Suze, who have just showed up in the first year and
just showed up at the door and was like, let me in.
And so I think everyone gets to experience it in a different way. Like my view on it is going to be different than your guys's because I've dealt with a lot of difficult seasons. But like, I think there's like something very cool about everybody's perspective in that locker room and like with the organization, and it's part of what makes it fun.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. Again, this game is on Sunday, January 12th, 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So make sure you guys tune in. Again, this was Altitude Advantage.
I will.
You make sure you tune in.
I'll tune in.
I'm talking to the people.
I think they'll tune in.
They better tune in. Once
on
again,
CBS.
I'm your team reporter.
On Paramount Plus.
I'm your host and team
Westwood
reporter,
One.
Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have our fortune teller and TV guide and lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, and our lead writer.
Dang. That is.
Digital media contributor. But you know what? I'm manifesting it for her. I'm manifesting it
danger.
for her.
I'm in danger.
You know what? It's game time. We gotta go. It's time for playoffs.